Wrestling, sports, football, baseball, basketball. It's all intertwined, especially if you got brainiacs joining us at Bovada. No different as we have WWE Hall of Famer, one of the faces of AEW joining us at Bovada. Bovada.lv is where you can place all wagers for baseball, basketball, football, everywhere in between. But the man of the hour, too sweet to be sour, is Mark Henry. What's going on, sir?
Man, what's going on, man?
Working.
We have regardless of whether or not we have the world against us, we still gonna prosper. We still gonna succeed. We're gonna push forward. We're gonna do every adjective that you can think of that's positive. We're gonna make it.
No technology formed against us shall prosper. We are more than conquerors, right?
Yes, sir.
Listen, AEW, for those who are tardy to the party or those who are just stuck in other leagues, why should people be tuned into AEW?
You know what, man? AEW is a movement. It's a party in the crowd. If you buy a ticket, nobody's gonna tell you, "Hey, man, you too turned up." It's not gonna happen. Like, we want you to be turned up. We want you to come have a good time. We want you to leave there and tell somebody else, "Hey, man, I had the time of my life at AEW."
So it's a party.
It's a party. I mean, like, all you got to do is get a ticket, or you let me know when you're available next time. I'll make sure you get you a good seat, and I want you to see what it's like in that audience.
Riddle me this. What's up with CM Punk and AEW? Is that going to be a thing?
Man, you ever heard that term, "My name is Paul, and that's between y'all"?
Uh-huh.
And I think if more people mind their own business, that the world would be a better place.
Okay.
All of that stuff, I stay out of.
Okay. Paige's debut in AEW, does that fall within those lines?
No. Paige is a unbelievable talent. We worked together at Fox. Not to mention, we had a good relationship before we both left WWE. Mm-hmm. And I think that she is going to be valuable in the sense that Saraya is she was born into wrestling. And even the movie about her life, she was born into wrestling. Like, her mom and dad were both wrestlers, and the people in her family are wrestlers. And, you know, like the Rock made that movie, and anybody that didn't see it, Wrestling with My Family, like, you know, go see it. It's a great, great movie. And anytime you have somebody that comes in that adds that kind of star power, you know, you got to make sure you use it properly.
Tell me something, as the old folks would say, learn me something. How did your experience in WWE, both as the talent and the behind the scenes portion of it, prepare you for your role in AEW?
Man, I had good teaching. My experiences were my greatest teacher. Man, I started traveling the world when I was 16. And I came into wrestling in 95 and debuted in 96 after the Olympic Games. And every major wrestler from 1996 to now, I've been in the ring with. From the Flairs, the Hogans, the Undertakers, the Bryan Danielsons, the CM Punks, the Triple H's, Shawn Michaels, you name somebody, like, we touched. And I learned something from each one of those wrestlers. And I'm not just talking about the ones at the top. I'm talking about the ones that were on the way down, that, you know, that all they could do is give back to the business. I talked to the up-and-comers, the Randy Ortons, the Batistas, the Shelton Benjamins, the Brock Lesnar's, like the guys that are at the top now. Mm-hmm. Bobby Lashley, MVPs, and, you know, like, I've had a reaction, and that all led me to understanding, kind of like the steal a term from Star Wars, my knowledge of the Force is beyond strong, and it didn't help that I was actually a kind human being that didn't bullshit people, and people would come and ask me, how do I get in, or how do I do this, and I would tell them, there's hundreds of wrestlers. If you did a poll and said, hey man, how did Mark Henry influence your career? And if Mark Henry influenced your career, call in. There would be at least 1,000 wrestlers that, and a lot of them, you know their names. They would call in and they would write in and they would say, hey man, that dude opened the door for me. He like talked to somebody, like he would answer my call and tell me what to do, what not to do. Like I just spent my whole life being that guy.
Mark, I gotta ask this because you talked about the legends that you were in the ring with, the Undertaker, and I think in every interview we've ever done, we've never really sat and dissected Shawn Michaels. I feel like Shawn Michaels was ahead of the curve and was ahead of social media in his gimmick and just everything that he did. Razor Ramon was one of my favorite wrestlers, but even that ladder match with he and Shawn Michaels back in the day at WrestleMania was legendary. I've seen Shawn Michaels trending a lot on Twitter over the last month, and I'm imagining that has a lot to do with his work with the WWE Next. Did you ever envision Shawn Michaels transitioning from wrestler and talent to creative the way he has now?
I didn't at first, but once he got saved and he realized that there was something greater than him, then I was all over it. I knew he could be a teacher, he could be a mentor, he could be somebody that was giving. And if you saw his A&E biography, then you know kind of what the story was. And that's for him to tell that story in the A&E documentary, to tell the stories. But I didn't get along with Shawn, and a lot of it was because of all of those problems that they talked about. But man, once that dude got saved, man, he really got saved, and he became one of the people that I grew to respect a lot.
You know, I come from the basketball world, and
let's go. Me too.
But before we get into that, oftentimes when I talk to NBA legends or guys who recently retired, like a Jamal Crawford or a LeBron James or even a Jimmy Butler, they talk about what they remember about other people's game or specific games that they remember where this other opponent or rival or just cohort went off. What matches of Shawn Michaels do you keenly remember and you just watched and you were in awe?
Man, the whole series, all 3 matches he had at WrestleMania with Undertaker. Just the ultimate stories. It was like a really well done movie made about a book, and they followed what the book was like. The match he had with Ric Flair, when Ric Flair retired the first time. Bro, like, I was actually crying because Ric Flair was crying and Shawn Michaels was crying and everybody in the front row was crying. The dude that was holding the camera was crying. Like, it was an emotional match. And I would have to say those, Ric Flair and Undertaker. As good as the matches he had with Bret Hart and everybody else, it's the emotion of the match that I'm giving my nod to.
If you could go back in time, in basketball, they create, in NBA 2K, they create my players. If you could create your ultimate my player, incorporating your skills and other people's skills in wrestling, what qualities and what attributes would you give to create a player that, or a wrestler that has a 99 rating?
Man, I would give myself Shaquille O'Neal's ability combined with Adrian Dantley's. Can you imagine Shaquille O'Neal with a triple threat?
Yeah.
Like I mean, there's a 1993 or 95 All-Star game where Shaquille and Michael Jordan was playing one-on-one before the All-Star game. And Shaquille did Michael so dirty that it was like, Michael should have quit the game. He should have just quit. It was nasty. Shaq had abilities that was really unlocked. He didn't do all that stuff until later on in his career, but by then the athleticism had left and he was reduced to just being a big dominant guy that could get to his spots because his footwork was so excellent. And I don't know if there'll never be another Shaquille O'Neal, but Adrian Dantley, when I used to watch Adrian Dantley shoot it, he would fake it and drive. He would fake it and then he would post you up, and it was nothing that you could do. Like, if Adrian Dantley would have been LeBron James size, like, we might be talking about another guy being one of the top three.
Tell me something. We talking about basketball, but I gotta ask this question because basketball and wrestling are these days with storylines and just what people are saying on the mic, and then there's either the wrestling match in the ring or the game on the court. Dwight Howard is still a free agent in the NBA, but there's been talk about him actually participating in wrestling. Would you like to see Dwight Howard participate in the AEW?
Man, I would like to see him be involved in the business, period. Anytime you're a big name, notoriety type person, and you come into pro wrestling, you add strength to our industry. And the fact that he loves it enough to say, I want to be that, I want to do that, is telling people that our sport is meaningful. And that means all the world to me. And if Dwight Howard wanted advice or wanted to have somebody kind of direct him and be honest, like, man, I'm easy to find.
What? Have you watched any video of some of the stuff he's done since the summer?
I have not.
Okay.
I have not. But I remember seeing Karl Malone and Dennis Rodman come into wrestling and do really, really well. And if they would have dedicated their lives to it, it would have been great. They were all, I don't know if I've ever seen anybody have a better wrestling match as an athlete than Lawrence Taylor did with Bam Bam Bigelow back in the day. But, man, Karl Malone and Dennis Rodman, they looked the part, and they had the kind of notoriety that's needed for the business to flourish, not just the individual.
Keeping it basketball, have you seen the previews for the Redeem Team documentary on Netflix?
I have not. Now you got me curious.
So the 2008 Redeem Team, you had Kobe, you had LeBron, Dwayne Wade, Carmelo Anthony Davis, and they were just showing previews. It'll be on Netflix. They were showing previews of just what it was. If you recall, 2000, 2004, the Dream Team was getting their ass whooped by other international teams. We all know the Dream Team, and you know that Dream Team well because you participated in the Olympics yourself. But I just was curious to know, were you excited to potentially watch that documentary on Netflix when it comes out?
I am now. Man, all of those personalities is what's going to make that great, because Kobe was a domineering personality, and so was Dwayne Wade, and that generation of basketball player, I almost said wrestler. Everybody wanted to be a star, and they were all on the cusp of being the guy in the NBA. And the competition was very heavy, like who was number one at that time. So, yeah, I'm definitely gonna, as soon as me and you get off, I'm gonna try to log on and get some information about it.
You and I have talked ad nauseum about your respect for Magic Johnson and how you saved up your money to buy his legendary Converse weapon shoes. I'm gonna take that and raise you this. When you look at today's NBA, Does Ben Simmons remind you more of Magic, or does he remind you more of LeBron James and his skill set?
There's never been a more athletic point guard than Ben Simmons. And with the size, Magic was different. Magic controlled the entire floor. Ben does things one thing at a time. Handle the ball, draw a double team, can get to the basket, play really good defense on the opposing team's best player, those kind of things. But Ben is not a shooter. He's not going to draw you out. And people are going to actually give you. You couldn't give Magic Johnson a shot. You couldn't give LeBron James a shot. They're going to knock it down because they have the clutch gene. Ben does not have the shooter's clutch gene. I can't compare him to either one of those guys because those guys have a more well-rounded game. But the thing that Magic was a pretty damn good athlete, but Magic wasn't an athlete like Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons, man, jump out the gym, run as fast as a deer, like him and LeBron both. With their size, I don't know if there's anybody in the NBA, including a lot of the smaller guards, that can get baseline to baseline with the ball faster than LeBron.
So is LeBron?
I'm sorry?
So is LeBron? Meaning, is LeBron more like Magic, or is LeBron more his own man?
LeBron is closer. He's a better shooter than Magic was and a better scorer than Magic was. But from a physical standpoint, like size standpoint, they were almost the same player.
Sure.
It's just that Magic was I feel like a better passer and a better floor general than LeBron. But that's only because LeBron chose to do other things. Like, you assume a role in basketball, and you gotta, everybody know who the guy is on every team. You know, when the clock start ticking, get them the ball. Their worst shot is the best shot. And all of those guys have that. But the difference between LeBron and Magic is Magic would penetrate, and he knew how much time there was. And I only have enough time to get this one pass off, and I'm going to dribble penetrate. I'm going to look at Kareem, and I'm going to pass the ball and hit my Byron Scott in the corner, and he's going to knock it down because I have the faith in him from reps, and many times him doing that, he's going to get the shot off. LeBron tries to do that, but at the end of the day, LeBron is closer in skill set to Michael because he would do the same thing as Magic, except he would go take the shot.
LeBron is the face of the NBA. For many years, Vince McMahon was the face, the boss, and everything in between. And you and him had a good relationship from your time as in the WWE. I'm curious to know, what did you make of Triple H taking over for Vince as the face?
You know what? It was bound to happen at some point. I didn't think it was going to happen the way that it happened, but Triple H is more than adequate of running the company and being the boss. I never met anybody that was more passionate about pro wrestling than he was. His ultimate goal was to be who he is. When you dream about wrestling, you dream about, I'm sure in his heart of hearts, millions of times, he never dreamed about marrying the boss's daughter and being a part of the family.
Right.
But that's what happened. And he's taken over, and there's a lot of things that the wrestling community looked at as, man, that failed. The WWE didn't capitalize on this, and he's fixing all of those things, and he's making the fan base over there happy. So he's doing a good job.
From a wrestling presence perspective, when you first saw Triple H come out as Hunter Hearst Helmsley a guy, I think he was billed as a guy from Connecticut. Did you prefer his character more than the Triple H and DX? Where do you rank those characters, those personas?
No, man, it ain't nothing that's gonna top the Game. Like when he became the Game, man, when he the Triple H, Hunter Hearst Helmsley was something completely different than Triple H, and I like all of the stories and everything, but the Game, when it's time to play the game, like there's nothing that's gonna supersede that.
When he came in out as the Game, man, I felt like it was getting ready to be like a rap concert, or it was right when NBA players are coming out the tunnel. It just seemed like a zeroed in focus.
Yeah, he was able to draw the attention to himself, but he also was very given and lost just as much as he won. People don't realize that Triple H, he won the big one all the time. But on the way to the big one, man, he built a lot of guys. He made a lot of guys wealthy, and he made a lot of guys famous.
True. A couple more questions. One, what would D-Generation X, as well as the nation, look like in a social media era?
Oh my God, bro. It'd be ridiculous. Like there would be nothing that would be. We would start the show and end the show just like we did in the Attitude Era. I mean, it's just that the world would know it as it happened, and we couldn't go nowhere. Like we was in them streets back then. We was on, man, anything that was a hot nightclub, anything that was the strip joints, the socialite parties. Like, man, we was at all of that. And the Grammys, the Oscars, the Emmys, if they had iHeart music festivals and all of that back then, we'd have been there too. Like, we did it all. And the world would have saw us in, like, behind the scenes, which wasn't always pretty because, you know, we were trouble boys. And, like, when you live in them streets, you know that there's stuff that always happens that nobody never knows of. And that would have been the negative part of it, that people would have found out things that they probably didn't need to know.
Do you think, I've spoken to guys in your era, and I know back then you guys were very, very big on not breaking character publicly with other folks. That seems to be a lot more common, particularly in social media and just in public. Do you find it weird in today's era of wrestling that people are more comfortable doing that?
In today's era of wrestling, people are more comfortable with showing people who they are outside the ring. Mm-hmm. I would not have been. My whole persona was built off fear and intimidation. If people found out that I was a nice guy, that somebody just walked up with a service dog, man, the dog is beautiful, man, black, just like mine. And I started smiling. That's what people would have saw. They would have saw to me, and they wouldn't have been afraid of me no more.
Is the Roman Reigns Rock potential match overkill? Do you dream of seeing those two wrestle against each other?
I do. I think that it'll be the biggest match in wrestling history. Ain't no doubt, ain't no second place. Like, they lock up, and with the story that's being told about the bloodline and their family, and the mothers and the uncles and the aunts, and everybody being around the ring and involved, and the Samoan dynasty in other places, in other companies, all of those people being brought to the forefront of the industry, and what that's going to do for the two people in the ring, and what it's going to do for the Samoan heritage, bro. The implications is so great that you can't even factor it all in. And how much is it worth? How much is that worth? Is that like a blockbuster movie payday where The Rock would get like $20 million? Or is that something that, you know, would be there's a lot of guys that have made, you know, double-digit millions in wrestling. But this is going to be a number that's going to be ridiculous. Like the buy rate is going to be ridiculous. They're going to have to. This is a match that may have to be the way it was in the old days, where you put it in movie theaters and people all over the world go to movie theaters to watch the match. Can you imagine how much money that would generate? I'm not talking about a couple of 100 million. I'm talking about $500 million. I'm talking about you might get 700 million out of this. Mm-hmm. Like this is something that if you're not thinking like I'm thinking, you're missing the boat. Like it's too big for. I can't say too big for WrestleMania because that's like kind of the ultimate stage. But it's almost going to be too big for WrestleMania. Like you're going to have to put this in the movie theaters. You can fill up the biggest stadium in the world 5 times.
This is like Tyson in the 90s, but on steroids.
Yes. That's the best about the best that I could think of is, man, those Tyson fights, bro, people were spending, 20 grand for 2 seats, for 1 seat. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine having a $40,000 hit for 2 tickets? That's what it's gonna be like. In that arena, there's gonna be somebody that's gonna spend 50 grand, close to 100 grand on tickets. Watch.
Mark, you were hooping your day. Word on the street is Kevin Nash was, and so was the Undertaker. In you guys' heyday, who would win in a game of 21 between you, Kevin Nash, and the Undertaker?
Ooh, I think Dusty Rhodes would have beat everybody.
He could hoop like that?
Shit, yeah, man. Dusty could dribble. He could shoot. He wasn't a dunker because he wasn't. He was very athletic, but he was shifty. You know who else was good? Yoko. At 500 pounds, Yoko could ball, man.
Yokozuna could ball?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You better Google it. Undertaker, Paul White, Kevin Nash, they were basketball players. That's what they did in college. So like, I'm not going to sit here and go, hey, man, I would have been able to beat these college basketball players. No, they would have did me. But if it was a game situation, at some point, I was going to catch them with their head turned and I was going to point at the rim and then I was going to get my moment because I was going to put my nuts on their neck.
That's how you feel?
I know it. In my prime, I got 5 people that you can call that I played with.
Right.
A couple of them that were pro players that will tell you that Mark will dunk on you if you turn your back on him. Because I'm going to the basket. I was a cutter, man.
You in that same vein, you talked
Spin
about
move baseline, baby. I'm pointing. Go get it.
So you were kind of like a
2-inch vertical.
You were kind of like Zion Williamson then.
I loved it. I love that. I love the Zion's game because it reminds me if Zion Williams develops a baby hook with both hands, he'll probably score about 70%, 75% of his shots. He'll have a 40-point game with no threes, and that could be his career. His career average could be 60, 65.
Wow.
If he defines himself and stop trying to be overly explosive, because him being overly explosive, he's going to break his feet, he's going to break his ankles, he's going to dislocate a kneecap. Like, he's going to have to actually not try to be Derrick Rose. A lot of people don't realize Derrick Rose was so explosive and so athletic that he broke his body up. And that's what Ja Morant is doing, and that's what LeBron is a gear changer. With all of that explosiveness, the only time you see him is when he looks over his shoulder and see he got a breakaway and he does something. It's never in traffic. He uses the lanes to get to the basket. he'll go to the nail, get a pass, get a screen, and then he'll drop the ball to somebody else. If they miss, he'll cover it, he'll clean it up. He uses his abilities to make himself better and to make it better for the team. The reason these guys are getting hurt is because they want to put the highlight reel on. They want to be on Sports Center. They want to be on the interview with Scoop, talking about how they did this move. Like that's killing their careers, man. They better look at LeBron James as kind of the template of how you're supposed to play in the NBA as a great athlete.
Mark, who is the Steph Curry of wrestling?
Rey Mysterio. The things that Rey Mysterio has been able to do, ain't no way in hell he should have been able to do none of that. The championships, the cover of the video game. He 5'4". He 5'4". And outside of the Undertaker and Randy Orton, I never had matches better with anybody. The storytelling, just his mental ability is greater than his character abilities. Like it's unbelievable, man.
Who's the John Cena of the NBA?
Oh man. Yeah, I had to say LeBron. Covers it all. Never make you don't see mistakes. You know, John Cena is looked at as the greatest humanitarian in wrestling. He's granted more Make-A-Wishes than anybody in history. Like that's LeBron. LeBron is like you'll never see LeBron on the ticker, embezzlement, got arrested, a wife beater. He's just a good human being, and is fun loving and got great personality. Like that's John Cena.
Bro, I've seen you in some matches. The matches with the Undertaker, legendary. Your match with The Rock was legendary. What is one dream match that you wanted that you never got?
Man, I would have loved to been able to go back in the Wayback Machine and go wrestle Andre the Giant. Like it would have been so unbelievable to be me in my prime and him in his. Like it's nothing would have made me happier.
That's real.
I'm dead serious.
That's real. Who would have won?
Oh, of course, Andre. He's a giant. He's the greatest of all time. You know, it's just like when you ever hear Mike Tyson talk about Muhammad Ali.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, man, he's a lion. He would have killed me.
Mm-hmm.
He would have broke me down systematically. He would have outfought me. He would have, like, you know, whenever I hear Mike Tyson say that, the humility that he says that, I have to say that even if he's wrong, he was right to say it.
We're going to leave on that note. You know, every so often we sitting and talking, but I'm going to tell you something before we get up out of here. They can't make no memes with you next to James Harden anymore because he lost all that weight.
Man, he look good, don't he?
Yeah.
You know what, man? I feel like that they made all the right moves to be a better team. And I think that the Nets made the right moves to be a better team now that they got all of that foolishness out of the way. Mm-hmm. If Ben Simmons can go and be Ben Simmons without a jump shot, I'd like to see him work on those free throws. But if Ben Simmons can go and be what he was, it's going to be hard to beat the Nets because they could run it like they did the old Oklahoma City. Mm-hmm. When Kevin Durant and James Harden and Russell was together. Can you imagine Ben Simmons at the top of the key with Kevin Durant on one side and Kyrie on the other? And, you know, any one of those big guys in the dunk position, and somebody running up top to set a screen for him, it'd be damn impossible to try to stop. All you can do is try to, as a team, move and get in position to get a rebound and hope for a rebound, because if he dishes the ball to Kyrie and you're playing recovery as he's coming towards you and the defense is already on his heels, they're going to average about 115 a game. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited for this season coming up. Not so excited about my Lakers, but I'm excited about everybody else.
You heard it first. AEW, the face of AEW, WWE Hall of Famer, style coach, fashion coordinator, logic master, Mark Henry. A pleasure as always, sir.
I appreciate you, man.
Yes, sir.
Till next time.
Same bad time, same bad channel.